There's going to be a lovely storyline here. So she's going to start talking to us really about our investments and our pockets, and let's see what she has to say and take from there.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. And as I said, I'm going to talk to you about investing. But before I sort of jump into that, I'm going to talk to you a little bit through my journey, how I got to where I am, and what is it I do, but more importantly, what is it that you could be doing. So in terms of my background, I guess I kind of reinvented myself quite a few times. I am a physicist, so I studied physics at university at undergrad. Then I chose to do a master's in physics, and then I wanted to do a PhD in physics, and my mother said, absolutely not, go and get a job and earn some money, start racking that debt. And she said, what do you physicists do anyway? There's so many things thinking about the world being solved, and she said, the rest of us live in the real world, get a job and get some money. So I was like, right, Mum says I have to go and get some money, what should I do? I need to get a job. And there were some investment banks that came to campus. I had no idea what an investment bank was. As I said, I was a physicist, and that was pretty much my entire world. I remember one day there was a company, Credit Suisse. I thought it was something to do with cheese, but everyone was going along. And I was like, oh, I'll go along. And I'm giving my age away here, but they were giving away free popcorn makers. So this is the group who buy Australia in a bag. And I was like, right, I'm going to go get my free popcorn maker. And I was like, I'm here now, I might as well listen. And I remember leaving that event, and they were like, the best of bank is burning lots of money. And I'm like, cool, one's going to be really deep. So I said, right, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be an investment banker. I had no idea what it was. I literally went to Google, what is investment banking, how does it work, kind of thing. Googled a list of the top 10 investment banks, applied to all of those in that order. And the interesting thing was, I went to Imperial College, so they came to Imperial, and essentially what they said is it didn't matter that I didn't know finance. They could teach me everything that I needed to know, but what they liked was that as a physicist, they assumed I was analytical, and that was enough, so they teach me everything. So I joined Morgan Stanley Investment Banking when I graduated. This was pre-2008, I say when banking was still good. After the financial crisis, things changed quite dramatically, and I sort of got to a point and I said, right, it doesn't really make sense to be here anymore, what should I do? Long story short, I went back to study. I love to study, so I did an MBA. A 2-year MBA program at London Business School, and it was really during the MBA that I realized that there's a massive world out there, and there's a much bigger world than banking. Up until that point, that's all I'd ever seen. And I met so many different people from different countries doing different things, and I really thought, wow, you can pretty much do whatever you want. But the thing about the MBA is, it gave me a lot of confidence. I'd met MBAs before, and my impression of them was, of these arrogant American MBAs. I think they can do everything. But after doing the MBA, I realized that actually what it gave me was confidence. And at that point, I literally felt there isn't anything that I can't do, with the exception of being president of the United States, because I'm not American. But everything else is pretty much up for grabs. It's really just a case of deciding what I wanted to do, figuring out a strategy of how I was going to do it, who was going to help me get there, what networks did I leverage. But I really felt the Lord was my wisdom. And I think it was that moment that my sort of entrepreneurial spirit sort of woke up. However, I didn't really have an idea that I was super passionate about. So I ended up going back into banking, but I joined another firm. I joined Goldman Sachs as an ultra-high-net wealth advisor. And my role there was literally to help incredibly wealthy people, so the richest people in the country that you could think of, to help them to invest their money and make them more money. I was at Goldman Sachs for just over 6 years. And the reason I left is it dawned on me one day, and it really should not have taken the 6 years, that all I was doing day in, day out was making very rich white men richer. And I suddenly felt like, what impact am I having? Like, how is this helpful to the wider society? in all honesty, for some of our clients, if I didn't help them to make this money and could have made 20 million, 30 million, 50 million, they don't really need it. So I thought to myself, why don't I help people who need the help, even if it's just helping them to make £50,000? It aligns with my values, it gives me a better sense of purpose, but I'm actually making a difference. And that's why I founded Propelle. So Propelle is a female-focused investment platform, and our whole mission is to help women invest with confidence and build long-term sustainable wealth. Because what data tells us is we don't invest anywhere near as much as women. And in this country, the gender investing gap is 1.65 trillion pounds. The gender pension gap is 14%. So there are large numbers of women who you wouldn't classify as poor, who will get to retirement and suddenly realize they do not have enough money to maintain their standard of living, or in some cases even get them through to the ends of their life. And it's for multiple reasons. As women, we unfortunately earn less. We take time out to become carers if we have children, elderly relatives. Something I found out quite recently was just the impact of menopause on women and work and how that affects their salary as well. And then also we live longer. So when you factor in all of these things, we really have to be putting our money to work. But what the data tells us is we're very good at squirreling cash. So women have the highest numbers of cash ISAs, but significantly less stocks and shares ISAs than men. We have cash in savings accounts. But generally speaking, you don't really, over a long period, earn enough on your cash. So even though you think you may be doing something with it and that it's working, it isn't enough. And what we found is that women don't engage with a lot of the investment platforms out there, and they tell us, do you know what, it's just, I don't know where to start. I go on, I'm overwhelmed. It's not very clear. I don't feel like I know enough. I don't know what I don't know, so therefore I don't do anything. They felt that it's a very male-dominated environment and that they couldn't really fit in. So I spent a lot of time working with women to really understand, why aren't you investing? What is it holding you back? And we built a platform to help women overcome all of those barriers, and to get women investing constantly and building long-term wealth. So that's what I'm currently doing today. And I say that one of the interesting things about my journey is that in order to start my business, I started it by bootstrapping, i.e. I put in some of my own money to get it going. And initially when I started, I sort of said to myself, right, I just want to, I left Goldman Sachs. I wasn't exactly sure exactly what Propelle would look like. So I said, right, if I hire a conference room in a hotel, I'll just start sort of speaking to women about how I built my own wealth. Because ironically, despite the fact that I worked at Goldman Sachs, that is not how I built my wealth. You may think, bankers earn lots of money and things like this, but they tend to have quite expensive lifestyles. And so they're not actually that rich. And just to put that into perspective, I said to one of my senior colleagues once when I was thinking of leaving Goldman, I'm like, you've been here 25 years. Why are you still here? Like, usually he was going to tell me something that would inspire me to stay. He says, I have a wife that doesn't work, 3 kids in private schools and 2 mortgages. Where the hell am I supposed to go? One answer, you God. I was like, I'm good. Oh. But what that sort of showed me was that I wanted to leave. And so as I said, I bootstrapped when I started. But in order to be able to scale, I needed to be able to raise investment. And I heard the statistics around women raising funding for their startups. I think it's something like 2% of VC funding. I think it was the decade up to 2021. Only 2% of women received VC funding. For black women, it was even less. It was 0.02%. And I'm quite a confident person, so I knew the stats. I sort of said to myself, that's not me. I can do anything apart from be president of the United States. So I'm like, right, I'm going to go out and raise this money. It was a massive shock. I got meetings, so I think certain things in my background helped me get the meetings to open the door, but then I'm sitting across the table from men because they control the investment funds. And I had to explain to them why it made sense to build an investment platform, not for them. I was for all sorts of things. Oh, my wife doesn't do this. I manage the money, and why they don't know? And it was traumatic. And I don't use that word lightly. I remember speaking to my husband about it and saying, oh my goodness, if this is what fundraising is like, how the hell am I going to raise the money to build this platform? But I know I'm onto something. When I first started, it was, just a room in a hotel and speaking to women about how I saw my own world through property investing, and then what I learned about helping my clients and build their world at Goldman Sachs. And initially I was like, right, if I get 100 women, in a room once a month, amazing. And the first month I did it, 100 women, and then next month it was like 200 registered, and then in a couple of months it was several thousand. And I was like, oh my God, like this is growing way faster than I thought. And then also women started to say to me at that point, well, these conversations are great, but we want to take action. So what do we do next? And that was sort of the light bulb moment for me. It's like, okay, community and conversation and education is absolutely essential, but women also need a platform where they can take action, a platform that resonates with them, where they can actually build wealth. So I said, right, then I need to build a multi-asset class investment platform. That's what I used to do at Goldman Sachs. I said, okay, I know how to do this, but I needed the money. And so just going back to what I was saying about fundraising, the first round that I raised, the first sort of top round, was very difficult. I was going to a lot of people and getting sort of maybes, but no one was committing. And then I applied to Google for startups. And we got into Google for startups. Google gave us $100,000, and then there was a whole bunch of publicity. Within the next 2 weeks, my round was overfunded, predominantly by the people who were hovering around before. So what I learned was they were waiting for a name, a brand, something they recognize to sort of jump behind. And the other thing that I learned when it came to investing is that investors are sheep. They want other people to go first, and they all kind of play in. I'm literally closing another fundraise now. I have the docs from this list in my inbox, so I just need to get to it. This round has been so different. And I said to my team today, I'm really enjoying this fundraise. And we're like, oh, it's not what you were saying before. You were saying it was absolutely horrendous. And I thought about it. This round is 90% female. I've been speaking to women. Women are committing to invest in Propelle. And it has been a completely different experience for me. And I say one of the key things is, I no longer have to go into that meeting and explain why it's important to have an investment platform for women, because they pretty much get it. So it's just been a much easier journey for me. Now, one thing that I want to say about investing is, it doesn't matter what age you are. Clearly, the earlier you start, the better, but it is never too late. The benefit of investing is what's called compounding. So it's when you invest and then you make a return on your money, and then you invest that again. So you make a return on the return, and every year you make a return on the return on the return. So when you invest, your money actually grows exponentially. So the key thing is to start as soon as you possibly can. Einstein called compounding the eighth wonder of the world. I totally agree with it, not just because I'm a physicist, but it really is. It's incredible. If you play around with certain calculators and you look at, and it's not even investing huge sums. The key thing is little and often. But if you consistently commit to investing a certain amount every month or every 2 months or whatever you can afford, over 10 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it really builds up and makes a difference. And I know that particularly for younger generations, a lot of things really is about some instant gratification and we want things right now. Building long-term sustainable wealth isn't like that. You're not going to get rich quick, but it's about building for your future. And it's really important, and even if you don't necessarily see all the benefits now, I guarantee you your future self will thank you. I think one thing that I say is whenever you think of investing, you always have to have a long-term time horizon. And I say a minimum of at least 3 years. So when someone comes to me and sort of said, okay, I have this investment goal, I want to buy a house in sort of 2 years, I say, right, well that money for that house, that shouldn't be in your investment pot. Your investment pot is anything that's sort of 3 years plus. Ideally 5, but for a lot of people that's quite a long time to think about. So we sort of say 3 years plus. Any money you need for your life in less than 3 years, that shouldn't be in the investing pot, that should be in your savings pot. But any money beyond that needs to be in your investing pot. And what we find with women is most of the money is in the saving pot. So we really have to make an effort to think about it, think about what are our investment goals. What sort of time frame are you attaching to them? Does it make sense for you to have most of your money in cash if it is? How much can you start investing? And you can start investing with little amounts. You can open an ISA with £1. At Propelle, our focus is on both traditional investing and alternative investing. And what I mean by that is traditional investing is things like stocks and shares, mutual funds and things like this. That is really important if you're going to invest. You need to have that. That's kind of like your staple. So if you think of a salad, that's kind of like your leaf, be it spinach, lettuce, whatever it is. Alternative investing are other types of assets such as property or investing in startups, in companies, investing in wine, investing in art. They're things that are less traditional, but they tend to offer higher returns. They do come with higher levels of risk. But whenever you're thinking about a portfolio, it's important that you're thinking about risk-adjusted returns. So are you being compensated suitably for the risk that you're taking? But it's still really important to have those alternatives in your portfolio, but you wouldn't necessarily have them in as large amount as you would the traditional investments. So if you go back to my analogy of the traditional investments being your sort of spinach, lettuce, whatever leaf you choose, the alternatives are your superfood. You don't have a lot of it in your salad, but you absolutely need it. And this is what I saw at Goldman Sachs. Our clients came to us for the alternatives. They would take the other stuff too because they needed it in their portfolio, but in all honesty, you could get that stuff anywhere. But Goldman was particularly good at alternatives. So I sort of said to myself, well, if this is how the wealthy build their portfolios, then why the hell are every other investment platform for what I call retail investors, for you and me, why do we not have access to that? And as women, if there is a huge gender investing gap that we have to close, then we need to be getting every single pound of our money working as hard as possible. So we need loads of alternatives too. And that's what we do at Propelle, we bring both. So the first asset class we started with is property investing, but fractionalized property investing, which means minimum investment amounts can be from as little as £100. Because a lot of women have sort of said to us, well, I can't buy a house, I don't have a deposit, I just can't afford it. So we found a partner that allows access to certain types of property investing from as little as £100. So now when I meet women and they say to me, oh, I don't have any money, I can't invest, I say, well, do you have £1? You can open an ISA. Do you have £100? You can start investing in property. And we can show you exactly how to do it. So I think it's clear why the industry needs to change. I didn't see anybody making any changes, so I decided to do something about it myself. So I guess one of the things I was asked to touch upon is sort of bold Ayesha of what am I doing about it. I saw a problem, no one else was fixing it, so I said, I'm going to go out there and fix it. I've never been a startup founder before. I was an institutionalized banker. But I was like, right, I can figure this out. I see a problem, it means something to me, I am going to do something about it. So if I'm going to leave you with sort of 2 action points, the first one I would say is, where is your pension? A lot of women sort of say to me, oh, I haven't started investing yet. Most people who are working, if you're not self-employed, you will have a work-based pension. Go and find it. Where is it? Who is the pension provider? How much is in it? How much are they predicting it's going to give you when you retire? Is it enough? The answer is no. I'd be very surprised if someone told me their pension is going to be enough. And what investment bucket are you in? You naturally go into the default. People aren't even aware that there are choices. The default is not suitable for most people, particularly if you are young. If you are young, you probably shouldn't be in the default. So start having a look at some of the other options. That is such an easy thing for you to do. You will have all of the information. The second thing I would say to you is, of course, join Propelle. But we have a whole wealth of financial content and courses that I've written myself. They aren't boring. If they are, tell me, we'll get them changed. But also, we're a really big community. We have over 7,500 women within our community. We run events. Our whole mission is to make investing an everyday thing, to make it enjoyable, to make it fun. After all, we're building long-term worlds for ourselves so that we have freedom, so that we have choices, so that we don't have to stay in jobs we don't want to be in, we don't have to stay with partners we may not want to be with. And there are so many women out there ready to take that next step. We're not on those. So yeah, please join us. Thank you.